Oh, you are bad to the bone. No, you did. No. Oh my God. You guys are terrible. Hey, who's that?
Coco. It's like, okay.
Hi, Richard. It's always us two right at the beginning.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? I don't know where everyone is.
I don't know if you know it, but somehow it must be automatic. There is an email that comes out that says that the meeting's canceled.
Monday's meeting?
I don't know, was it Monday's meeting? Maybe.
Yeah, this meeting definitely isn't canceled.
Anything else?
I saw that too. It was really confusing. Is there there's a meeting, today's meeting is on, and there's a meeting on Tuesday?
No.
I got an agenda, I got an agenda for Monday.
Yeah, that meeting is not happening. It's been taken off the website.
Okay, thank you.
So if you got a canceled notification, that was probably for that Monday meeting that's not happening.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Another beautiful day in paradise out there.
One of the few times I welcomed the Zoom call.
No snow days for the kids.
Stop your complaining.
It's a blue sky somewhere, right? All right,
I
let's see.
saw a school district, I can't remember where it was, but even though they're all learning from home and remotely, they declared it a school day or a snow day, sort of as a tradition. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, good for them.
It'll be mental health days next because people are going to need a break. All right, so let's see here. We've got, looks like we've got a quorum. We'll give Jason just a minute here. I keep looking up, well, not keep, but every once in a while I look up and I'm looking for Nat's name.
I'm sure you see him on some other meetings you're in.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be that far.
Hey, Christy. Good morning.
Hi.
I love your
How are you?
hat.
Thanks. It's a cold day.
All right, we're going to get rolling and people can just kind of, Christy, kick them in. Jason can kind of roll into the fold as they get here. So good morning. For the record, Stephen Welch, Chair of the Capital Program Committee. I'd like to confirm member access with an I after I call your name, please. Richard Hussey.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Excellent. And then staff, as I see, Rick Sears.
Aye.
Ellie, is that you at Town Committee?
It is.
Great, thanks. And Brian, good morning.
Good morning.
And I'll confirm Jason.
Hi there. Here.
Hey, good morning. Hi, Terry. Good morning. All right, so we'll roll on. Christy Kickham will be joining us, I'm sure, shortly. There are no anticipated speakers. Our meeting is being held via Zoom video and audio broadcast on the town's YouTube channel, consistent with Governor Charlie Baker's order of March 12th, 2020. There's no members of the public present to speak. There'll be no public comment. Any materials that are provided or on the Zoom view will be on our town website unless noted otherwise. And I'll walk us through the agenda. Please remember to mute your Zoom until your name is called, and let's direct discussion through the chair for minute taking. And lastly, any formal votes, if any, will be conducted by roll call. With that said, I'd like to get a motion. Well, I'll call the meeting of the Capital Program Committee to order. It's Thursday, December 17th, slightly after 10 a.m. And if I could get a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Richard, on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
And Christy Kickham. Good morning, Christy.
Good morning. Aye.
Excellent, thanks. So let's see, we're going to jump right into fiscal year 22 requests, ranking of relative importance, doing a group rank and discussion. And for that, I believe you can now see the worksheet, correct?
Yes.
Is there any, let me say it this way. Is there anyone who can't see a worksheet on their screen? Okay, great. I presume everyone's had a chance to take a look at what was sent out in the packet. This is my worksheet version versus a PDF, so it might look a little bit different with respect to columns. What I'd like to do, I'll give you just a brief intro on it, since we do have a new member, and we've got our requests in front of us, and we've got our team average of the ranking of relative importance, which is the Capcom group Rory. And let me ask Richard, when I click on the screen to highlight a column or a heading, do you see, for instance, comments clicked?
Yeah, I can see comments. Yes.
Okay. And if do you see my mouse hovering?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what gets seen. So what I've done here with the ranking of relative importance is the group average. Don't get blurry. I'm going to scroll down here. The average was 67.01. So anything under that is in a maroon colored text. What we would typically do here is we'll review the comments to see if there were any changes with respect to recommendations from the town manager. And we did discuss those last week, but we'll quickly recap them for members who weren't able to be present. And then we'll go through and I'll call out each of these similar to how we do it on the floor of town meeting. If anyone would like to speak, get information on any of the particular requests, just let me know and I'll make a note, and then we'll go back through them as a group. Before we get into any of those exercises, I want to point out that given the new entry future projects, which is an expansion of the total dollar request, and it also has to do with a borrowing mechanism that we really haven't jumped into in great detail. We're going to hold the DPW facilities group towards the end of the stack, because we can have the discussion of the facilities borrowing mechanism, the future projects at that time, as opposed to perhaps, delaying or distracting from the other ones, which are a little more straightforward. So that'll be after we warm up. With respect to the list of requests, if anyone would like to discuss anyone in particular, I'm just going to go from the top. Facilities, site paving annual updates. Okay. General building envelope, roof siding, Jetties Beach facility upgrades, municipal general rent. Actually, let me do this. Can everyone see the screen? Is there anyone who would just raise your hand? Is there anyone who would like to, has any questions or any discussion on any of the first group under DPW facilities? I'll give you a few seconds here as I go through the list myself. Okay, everybody had a chance to review? I don't want to rush it. I just don't want to, we don't need to hear my voice drone on.
Mr. Chair, looks like Pete's on the verge of saying something.
I was just going to ask if, was there an updated copy of this Excel sheet sent out to the members here by chance?
No.
Yeah.
You have the PDF version. Is there a discrepancy or some concern?
Not necessarily, just to know if there was a document that I could also kind of just work with off to the side.
No, this is the, I did not send it out. When we discussed it, everyone had just asked for a PDF. So
Gotcha. Yeah. I was trying to find that one as well, but I couldn't seem to, unfortunately. That's
okay.
my problem.
So everything in the PDF is here. Allie, if you hear us, if you don't mind, if you are near a computer, maybe you could shoot Peter a copy.
Oh wait,
of,
sorry. Was that in her agenda packet?
Yes.
It should be included in the packet that was emailed to everyone.
Sorry, I was looking for one that came from Richard. Apologies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No
Okay, great.
When was that emailed?
The 15th, Tuesday at 5:14
Tuesday?
p.m.
I think I sent it out. The first
Yeah.
packet I sent out on Friday, and then there was an updated one that everyone should have gotten on Tuesday, I believe.
Didn't get it, Christy?
No.
It's in the it's on the calendar
Christy,
invite, and
I'll
it
send it to you
also
right now.
was sent in an email. I can forward it to you also.
Okay.
Yeah, just to point out for future reference, in my Outlook, in any event, the attachments don't show up as attachments in a calendar invite. They're at the bottom of the page where it shows an icon, and when you double click it or drag it out, you can see it. But conventionally, Outlook shows a little paperclip. And these emails with the calendars don't tend to do that. It's just, I guess, how the software works.
Okay,
So
I'll continue sending it out as an email then to everyone.
No, it works fine. I just, if as long as Christy can confirm offline with you that he's getting the attachments, that's all I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Okay, great. So DPW facilities, we've got no calls on those. DPW transportation. No additional information. Peter McEachern.
Not information, but should we go back and just mark two of the items, the traffic data collection and the Wisconsin footbridge, only because it's a lot lower than the average?
Yeah, so actually what I was going to do is, thank you, Peter. Any of these that are below the average, I was going to call out myself, because we may just have a discussion on procedure to say that since they were not called out for further discussion, put them in the hopper. But we can do this as we go. That's fine. So you had mentioned Sconset Footbridge and I'm sorry, the permanent traffic data collection. Okay, great. Any other comments on these? And Richard Hussey?
Do we have a revised number for the weight drive?
Weight drive, yeah. Let's see. So comments. Thank you for that. Weight drive is a $1.5 million grant, and the balance in my comments here will be from prior appropriations. So although we've processed the request for a particular dollar amount, what we're going to be ranking, I presume, Brian, if you want to jump in, that's fine too, is I don't know if a transfer will be required or if it's just a clean use of prior appropriated funds that were already targeted for weight drive, or if we actually need to make a recommendation. Brian?
I don't know that you need to make a recommendation, because this 3,027,000, if I recall correctly, was for, and this is what I'm still trying to sort out, from last year. We have the appropriation already to do Waite Drive completely. We've allocated it over 2 other years. I think that this 3,027,000, and I'm still trying to find all of the documentation from last year, actually relates to doing Amelia Drive, which I'm not entirely sure is the plan.
Yeah. So last year it was
I believe this was the supplemental portion to what, on top of what we had funded, what we already had funded to complete Waite Drive and all the work on Amelia Drive. I think that was put together by the transportation planner through the beta group, if I recall correctly.
That sounds familiar, and it included the infrastructure improvements to Amelia Drive.
Right. So right now we have just under 2.5 million still left in the Waite Drive allocation from the 2 years, plus 1.8 is more than enough to complete Waite Drive. I don't know if this other 3 million is going to go forward because I believe it relates entirely to Amelia, even though it was last year, we think it was Waite and Amelia, if I recall correctly in the software.
Yeah.
So
we wrote it up as just to be clear, I'm sorry, Brian. We wrote it up as Waite Drive, 6FG, and Amelia Drive.
Right. So I don't know if the board, we've included this in the debt exclusion category, but I don't know if that's actually going forward. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so why don't we do this then? We'll put it in with our discussion of what falls slightly below the average and determine whether we're going to put those in the hopper or not. The end result will be that we'll issue a recommendation on the merits of the project, noting that the funding is partially grant funded and partially prior appropriation.
Correct.
Unless anyone has any concerns about that. Okay.
So that would leave, Mr. Chairman, that funding would be the number necessary to complete the work based on the estimate from last year.
Right. So that would be the project cost, but not the ask for a current annual town meeting.
Correct.
Okay. So, and just to put on the backup alarm here a second, Cobblestone Improvements, town manager's recommendation was to reduce this by $250,000. And we discussed at the last meeting all these comments. The town manager's recommendation for the road improvements maintenance island-wide was to reduce it to 1.25 from the 3.738 number. And we just discussed Waite Drive. Okay, we've noted we'll talk about 2 of those items one way or the other. Fire department, is there?
Before we move on quick. So
Sure.
Those town manager recommendations, are we voting on whether or not we want to accept those recommendations at some point, or?
Yeah. So when we actually, right now, what I'm trying to do is get through, like at town meeting, what we're going to talk about before we actually talk about it. So we can just focus on discussion versus procedure.
So any ones with town manager recommendations we'll automatically be talking about after we go through the first round.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. And then anything that's below average, we'll either nick it as put it in the hopper or we'll have further discussion.
Gotcha.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, can I add in Newtown Road if I missed that, if you guys already did that, to have a discussion on it?
Sure. Any others on DPW transportation? Okay. Fire department, we covered IS, GIS. Any on there? Christie, kick 'em.
Stephen, I just wanted to, can I swing back to the fire department for a second?
Yep. I just want to remind you, we're going to have actual discussion on each of these
Got it.
separately.
Okay, so I just, the trench and technical rescue equipment. If you could
Yeah,
put-
okay. Yep. And I tagged that one just because the group ranking was relatively low.
Got it.
Let's see, wireless network design, the marine department, the pump out, Richard.
Just going back to the wireless network design.
Mm-hmm.
In their request, it was designated a legal requirement and critical. I just want to point that out.
Okay, we'll X that for discussion when we go. Thank you. I appreciate it. Marine department. Police department. All right, Public Works, we've got a
Sorry, Mr.
list.
Chair. It's
Yep.
you're going through it quick. Lorraine Housing, we have to nix that. Yep, for sure.
Okay, no worries. Public Works. I'm just going to hit these because we're going to either talk about them briefly or not with respect to the average. I'll go back up and do the others when it won't make people dizzy. School department. While you're looking at the list, I'll point out the campus-wide improvement plan. Bless you. Town manager has recommended a reduction to 1 million. Any other? Okay. Town admins, the town managers recommended a reduction to 100, the harbor plan implementation program to 100,000 from 150, and to assign the island-wide underground wiring feasibility to an out year. Actually, I'm presuming it's to be assigned to an out year. It was not recommended for this year, if I understand correctly. Christy K.
Can I just put that on the list for a quick discussion?
Sure.
Yeah.
And we'll hit that. Any others? Okay. Airport. Sewer. Is Dave getting his F650 this year?
Huh. It is Christmas.
Okay, so those are them. I don't know if anyone wants to be geeky. I'll be very brief on this. So basically, I programmatically put these into each of the spreadsheets each year to get an idea of what the variations are and what the standard deviation are, and the delta from our average is indicated in this column, and then standard deviation. So the mean of the variant, well, whatever, is 6.41. And we had some of these that were over the standard deviation. So standard deviation basically measures how the numbers in the group are spread out, how much, and it measures that relative to the average. For this data set, it's not super useful for anything because, one, it's a relatively small data set. It's easy to kind of figure out what's going on. But for me, it helps me just to kind of pinpoint because it color codes things, color codes the data set. So it's easier to pick these up if we're picking them up.
Mr. Chair, question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any of those that like 12 and over or 10 and over that actually is worth talking about in that? Or is it not really relevant for our overall discussions? Like, is there any outliers that we would need to have a conversation of why we were so far apart?
Yeah, I think it may be, well, so what this actually measures is the standard deviation from the group as opposed to the individual rankings. I think, Jason, to maybe to your point, better to your point, it would be useful to take a look at the Rory sheet, the team Rory sheet on one or two of those. If I did not do an analysis to determine what the spread was, what the variation was on individual requests between any members. However, okay, that might be a useful exercise at a future meeting. And I will take a casual look at that and see if anything pops up, because I think that's a good way to use that. Okay, so we're going to go back to the top, and right now I just want to have a broad discussion. We're going to skip DPW facility for the moment. On the DPW transportation, other than the permanent traffic data collection and the Sconset footbridge, there are three. Jason wanted to speak to, you know what? Screw it. What is our bear with me 1 second. I just need to make some changes on. Okay. Christy K, no, just warming up your hands. Pete
Oh, yeah,
Kaiser.
I was just curious, what was the group average that are kind of our cutoff line that's either red or black? Was it 68 something?
67.01 to be
67.01. Okay. And so anything below that right now is marked as red. Anything above that is marked as black.
yeah, and anything that is got a maroon line to the right of it has a standard deviation that's more than 1 unit. The standard deviation,
More than one standard deviation.
yeah, was 6.41. Anything with a red line next to it has more than 1 unit, so it's greater than 6.41. So those are ones that I wanted to, if they were positive deviation, no need to discuss them. If they were negative, I wanted to make sure we covered them if no one else called them.
And when you say covered them, I mean, if they're more than one standard deviation below the average, that's a pretty telltale sign that it's probably as a group, we decided, that it's not as important of a project. I mean, obviously there's some things that go into that, and that's where the discussion will kind of hash out, but is that the
yeah, covered them in that regard. The general thrust being that it was so low as a group that likely we aren't going to recommend it. But on the other hand, well, we have the benefit of Rick here, and I hadn't gone back through these. If there's anything that was tagged as imminent or legal requirement, that he might pick those up. And despite the fact that we ranked it low on merits, it still is a requirement, and therefore we would recommend it. So Rick, if we're going through these and if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye out for that, I'd certainly appreciate it. Richard had mentioned one earlier. Okay, so Cobblestone Improvements. Peter McEachern, before we go on to those.
Thanks, Stephen. I have a question specifically, a kind of a two-part question for Brian. Putting aside all the Rorys and the rankings and the actual individual request, looking at a total value of the capital for FY22, Brian, is there a number that you and or overall Libby, the select board, feels comfortable with funding? And if so, is that greater than the total value of all of these items, or is it less than?
I think that what the town manager is comfortable funding in the general fund was what we gave as part of the December 9th presentation, Peter, to the select board. And I think that total, and granted it may change when we talk about the Wade Drive piece or continue to look at it, that total was 26.7 million.
Thank you.
And on the slide deck that Rick had put together, there was the summary of the recommendations with all the funding sources. And I think that's, when we looked at this, what we were comfortable putting forward.
Okay, so with that being said, then what value are we looking at today where we have to potentially augment the requests in order to hit that 26.7?
Well, I mean, I don't, are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm looking at a PDF, so I can't run numbers on it.
So I think if I may, I think the difference between the 26.8 that Brian was just referring to and what's on the sheet is captured where we have the town manager's recommendation to reduce a project total.
Okay. So if we approved all those, and we're in.
Yeah, so,
Great.
Yeah, I think we're about a little more than 5, under 6 million less than what the requests were as of, with respect to what's been recommended by the town manager. And then we're going to, I mean, just so you're aware, we're under a timeline to get the Rory. Basically, this is our up-down list that we've been providing to town manager. We were to provide it last week, and things happen, so we are going to get it out this week. It's not gumming up the works, but it will if we wait too much longer. So as opposed to getting into broadening this out and getting into the additional discussion of funding sources, which we will be doing. These are the town manager, finance department, and then we'll be making our own recommendation, whether we believe that we want to track that or do something else, as opposed to having that discussion for each request as we go, which we've not done in the past. So I'm not going to entertain doing it now. And primarily, I'm not going to entertain doing it now because we may not have the time during this meeting to get through everything. So we're going to focus on the Rorys. This isn't against what Peter McEachern just brought up, but this is just as a result of it. It's an opportunity for me to bring up the fact that we are going to be talking about funding sources in detail. The segue to that will be either at this meeting or at the next meeting, this concept of the facilities borrowing mechanism, because that will literally segue into discussion of funding. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So we're back to, let's see, cobblestones. We are slightly below the average. I'm thinking what I would like to do is if there's anyone who, how do you guys want to do this? You just want to do a straight vote on each one? Might be the simplest way to deal with it, by a nod of heads. And then if there's one, Christy K or Christy F, and then Christy K.
Yeah, I just had a question. So with this being a request for 500,000, do we ever do anything where we might approve something a little bit less, or do we only do what they requested?
Yes, good question. And we, in fact, often, well, not often, but we certainly have and likely will be making recommendations that are for less. And that could be for various reasons. For instance, last year, there was a lack of information in some of the line items, but there was also a lack of capacity for the department head to do the work, or the department. So we recommended level funding for particular projects. Peter Kaiser, hold 1 second. Christy K.
I was just going to say, instead of voting on these individually, could we just vote on it for each department?
Yeah, I lost track. I apologize. I haven't juiced up on my coffee yet. The ones that are not X'd are in the hopper. What I actually wanted to get to was just a very brief discussion on these requests that are slightly below the average. Let me put a fine point on these. I'm talking about requests that are slightly below the average that no one has requested additional discussion on. Do we believe that generally these should just go in the hopper as a recommendation, or do we want to be having a separate discussion of whether or not to put them in as a positive or for an out year? Current year or out year?
We can go through them.
All right. So, I'll do it on a department basis, and anything that's not in where we're going to save time is that anything that is in black will vote as one group. So, is there anyone who, could I have a motion to recommend Cobblestone Improvements for current year funding?
Can I ask one question quick?
Oh, sorry, Peter Kaiser.
Sorry. Yeah. So we're approving this at 500 without any recognition to town management's recommendation to reduce to 250. Because I did have a question if there is a chance to consider that recommendation.
There is. And okay. I apologize because I had grouped that column.
For that recommendation, curious if that is to if that's kind of how much capital is available related, or if that is capacity to perform $500,000 worth of cobblestone improvements in that fiscal year.
Rick, can you give us some elaboration on that?
Yeah, so, well, just to be, I was not in the meeting, I couldn't make the meeting that Brian and Libby spent discussing and prioritizing these. I think the recommendation reduced was a combination of, we've done a bunch of cobblestone work this year, as well as it's funded by free cash, and we were trying to not exceed $5 million of free cash in terms of funding source. So sort of a combination of those two. But I have to say, sadly, Brian had to leave. I know Brian is in a class and he's trying to duck in, duck out. But My understanding is a combination of those two.
Okay, so there is some type of a limitation that would, if we were to recommend the 500,000, it's likely not going to be utilized. So then I would entertain a motion for current year or out year, subject to the town manager's recommendation.
I would make that motion to reduce it to 250 for the current year.
Second.
Okay. Peter McHacker.
Aye.
Let's see here. Richard Hussey,
Aye.
Christy F,
Aye.
Christy K,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Okay, and myself is an aye. Okay, this is just going to go in the hopper. This one is going to be for voted. I'm going to presume for current year, but for now, we'll just put it in the hopper. Newtown road improvements. Jason, you actually wanted to have a little bit of discussion on that. Jason, if that's a quizzical look towards my last comment, if it's going in the hopper, it means that it's above the average, and there was no discussion, and likely it was approved last year for current year recommendation. So we'll just vote them all at the end as one block in order to facilitate a little efficiency. On the Newtown Road, did you want to?
I'm just curious to hear why people thought it was a little, why it came out where it was. Anything that's a part of the select board strategic plan has really been vetted through staff, and not just the select board stopping it on there, just slapping it on. And it didn't pass last year, I think, because there wasn't at the ballot, because there wasn't discussion at town meeting. So I'd like to see it on there, but if the group feels that it's not close to 67, it's fine. But I'd like to recommend it, just so we know it. This is a full wraparound. This is by the Inky. This is on Fairgrounds Road. It's not just Newtown Road itself. And I think if the voters understood that it was that whole rectangle, that they'd see a little more value in the 1.2.
Peter Kaiser.
Yeah, not that I know if this was necessarily illustrated in my Rory ranking, but one thing that I noticed just from the materials provided was that there really wasn't much of a conceptual layout of what the funds were going towards. I mean, I think there was one GIS aerial of Newtown Road with a red line where the sidewalk's going to go, and then some generic pictures of the speed humps. And again, I'm not sure how much that was reflected in my Rory, because I kind of try to separate, how I feel about it from a personal point of view to, how it lines up within the Rory criteria. But I mean,
that's a good point.
That was just one thing that just speaking as, I guess, a citizen that might have been looking at it and said, well, 1.2 million. And it goes to what you just said, it would have to be, even if it made it to the ballot, it would have to be well marketed and explained.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other discussion or comments? Okay. Brian, do you happen to know, or Jason, I thought that this loss at not that we're on the politics side, but it is information that's relevant with respect to community needs and wishes. I believe that this lost at the ballot by maybe 14 or 15 votes. Do I remember that correctly or no?
It was I think it was under 25 votes total that it lost by, if I remember correctly.
Right. So if 14 people had switched their minds, it would have won. Okay. All right. How do we want to deal with this, folks? Advance this or not? Christy Kickham?
Yeah, I mean, I without having my Rorys right in front of me, I feel like I rated this fairly decently. The fire station's complete. There's a lot more continuity going on in the area. I think it would be in our interest to see it forward.
Okay. The only other comment I make is that we did recommend it last year. So.
Was it a red or a black last year, even though we recommended it?
You know what? I don't have that handy without messing up my screens.
No worries.
But it's pretty close, and Yeah, I think I would go with that. I would go with that answer.
And so is this one where we would, again, everyone we're going through, are we going to need a vote on whether or not to hopper it or kick it down the line, or are we just?
Well, this one, because it was called, I thought we would have discussion and a vote, or we might just say to put it in the hopper if we don't want to. Either way, I mean, it's a positive recommendation if it goes in the hopper. So, Richard Hussey.
I'll move to put it in the hopper.
Okay. On the motion, your motion, Richard.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
Aye.
Christy F.
Aye.
Christy K.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
And myself is definitely an aye. Okay, great. So the permanent traffic data collection station, let's see, we did make a recommendation to advance that last year. It did fall on a relative basis this year to a lower rank, and it is, Jason, does this fit in somewhere with strategic plans or?
The traffic data, it does. It's going to give us more information to make better decisions in our transportation area of the strategic plan. We've been talking about this forever. It's short money, so I think it's an easy thing to not approve because 175 for some cameras, and but as we know, data is it's priceless. But I mean, at 53%, I don't know if I can make an argument to move it up. And we also don't have a transportation planner to run it, but maybe we would by the time this money was allocated. So it is really important because we have all these assumptions, right? 100,000 people are here in the summer. Oh, actually never goes over 50. So data does really help us make decisions.
Okay. I'm going to do Christy K and then Christy F.
Yeah, I agree. It's important, but how often is it important? You know, I don't know. When's the last time we had one? I can't remember.
We haven't done anything like this before. Usually we just do, Mike stands on the side of the road or he does like a little counter. This would actually tell you the difference between a bicycle, a walker, a truck, a car, so it really gives us a lot of data for what moves through that area.
Okay. Christy F.
Thank you. I agree that it's really important and part of the select board strategic plan. Without a transportation planner right now, I think I feel comfortable putting it in an out year rather than this year.
Okay, thank you. And just a little context, we had made a recommendation last year. The ask was 1.5 and our recommendation was, or I'm sorry, 150,000. Our recommendation was 120,000. Peter Kaiser.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this kind of falls in that category of, even though technically based on our RORIs, it doesn't pass muster, but I think it might be one where, given the dollar amount, which does it or does it not, is that not reflected in our RORIs? If it's shorter money for something that we do feel is important, even if that isn't reflected as such in the RORIs, is it one where we kind of go against what the average group ranking was relative to the overall average?
Peter, your volume just dropped out. I'm sorry. Can anyone not hear me?
I can hear you, Steve.
I can hear you.
Okay. Peter, I just was trying to determine whether it was my end. Peter Kaiser, your volume dropped out towards the tail end there. In terms of us hearing you, we weren't able to hear you.
Sorry, I just cut out for a second there. I don't know how much you heard, but I think this just falls into like one of the categories where, even though we ranked it low as a group, it's for short money in the sense that isn't reflected in the RORI, and sometimes it's worth something for 175,000. If we cut it out, are we really saving that much money? If we think that it is important, even if that's not reflected as much in our RORI, the dollar amount also isn't reflected. So just something that I recalled from last year on a couple, and I may be mistaken, but.
No, okay, thank you. That's helpful. Anyone else? So my comments are that I think for a couple of reasons we should advance this. One is which the data lags the resources. So my recollection is that this installation will be subcontracted out and the data collection is part of a system that is either in place or will be, but doesn't need a traffic planner to be, the traffic planner will be required to interpret the data. But if we wait until we have a traffic planner, then we are waiting that till that period plus the time to collect the data. So I would suggest that we would advance the funding for this when the resources are in place to do the installation. It could be accomplished and the data would be in place for when the traffic planner ideally walked in the door in order to make these useful. I do appreciate the comments both Christy F. and Jason made, and in particular the fact that this particular software and hardware can differentiate between the types of vehicles. And I think that that's important data in the different areas that I don't recall the specific streets that were mentioned when the presentation was made, but I recall the idea that this would be very useful information to have for those particular areas to make good decisions, good informed decisions. Richard Hussey, please.
I'll move it to put it in the hopper if you're ready for a motion.
Yes, I certainly would entertain that motion. Thank you.
Second.
Richard, on your motion?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser, I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy F.
Aye.
Christy K.
Aye.
And Jason.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, so Hopper, road improvements, maintenance island-wide. I'm just going to put these that are in black text, which are either at or above the average. If someone wants to discuss them, that'll be probably your last opportunity. Peter McEachern.
This encompasses both the road improvements that our town manager wants to reduce by 1.25, also the cobblestone. And to me, looking at the Surfside area, building Lover's Lane, which we own now as a dirt road, but to put more money, capital money into a road that exists, but it's dirt, and make it asphalt when we're at the same time cutting existing capital improvements to repair existing roads that we already own, seems counterproductive. I mean, I look at it as if I'd rather not cut taking something you already own and repairing it. And if you don't repair it, you're kicking the can down the road, but why take new money and build roads you don't have? So to me, it's just, even though it's all high percentage on the roads, it just doesn't make sense to me.
So can I just get clarification? You're saying both the cobblestone and the road improvements with respect to putting money into maintenance versus putting it into new roads is your preference?
Yeah, I'd rather take something I already own and make it whole before I spend money on something that is physically not there. And when
Okay,
you build more roads, you build more operational expense.
So the thing I was missing is you're comparing and contrasting that against perhaps Surfside area road reconstruction?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or thoughts on the request or Peter McEachern's comments? Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion. Keep in mind the town manager's recommendation was to reduce to 1.25. I'm not speaking either for or against. I just want to make that clear.
Can I again ask for clarity regarding the reduction? Is it similar to the cobblestone improvements where it's a mix of trying to free up some free cash as well as whether or not there's capacity in the fiscal year to utilize 3.8 million for road improvements?
Brian?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. It's similar to the cobblestones that we have, as Rick had mentioned, we had about $5 million to allocate to free cash, so we had to fit everything into that. The thing that exists within transportation through either cobblestones or road improvements is we have supplemental funding via Chapter 90 that we can also use on an annual basis to do this. So it's kind of where, and historically, we have allocated under the road improvements maintenance island-wide, we typically have allocated approximately $1 million a year. So that is consistent with what we have been doing annually.
Thank you, Brian. All right. So with that, Christy K.
I agree with Peter's comment. I just want to point out for the Surfside area road reconstruction, it does say phase 2. So I'm not sure if we're bound by that in any way.
It's, if I may.
Yeah, Rick, please.
It is, the town manager has been specific about it. It is Lover's Lane and Lover's Lane only.
Okay. And then with respect to phasing, Rick, just I think to more to that point is there a particular work that has started that would be a sunk cost we would be abandoning if we didn't pursue it? I'm not suggesting we not pursue it. I just want to be clear on information. Brian, we haven't actually done anything other than surveying and engineering, right?
Well, if you remember, this project started probably a year or two after I got here and has taken on different itinerations, but this was part of the whole Boulevard, Lover's Lane, Orkawa, Monahans road reconstruction that was supposed to be done over 3 years, but has, due to complexities with the first piece in the Boulevard area, taken on a much longer time frame. So the Lover's Lane portion is the second of the three phases. This was originally presented, I think, in 2016 as part of the previous to the prior DPW director. So this has been in the plan for a long time.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Other thoughts? Okay. I just want to remind you where we are currently on the road improvements. So we're going to get to Surfside, Lover's Lane briefly. Jason, did that? Okay.
Oh, wait.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion. What do we want to do here, folks?
I'll move to put it in the hopper.
Okay. I'd ask that we would actually do a vote on any of these that have a town manager recommendation, just for clarity. It's 6 of one, half a dozen another, but in terms of not having to make footnotes, it'll be a lot easier if we vote the recommendation of the town manager. So would you consider to recommend this for current year subject to town manager's recommendation?
Yes.
Or are you considering that we would spend more? Sorry, that was a leading question.
My motion would be to accept the town manager's recommendation and vote on that number to move it to the hopper.
Okay, can we do it as a current, just directly make it as a current year recommendation versus voting it later in the hopper? Same outcome, it's just, I'll be able to write it up differently.
Sure, whatever works for you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. So on Richard, your motion?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy F?
Aye.
Christy K?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
And myself is a yes. Okay, great. Sconset Footbridge construction, Peter McEachern?
No, I only brought it up because of its Rory rating of 57.7.
Okay, gotcha.
I guess my only question then to the Rick or Brian, this is for repairs, not to build it brand new, correct?
Repairs.
Repairs.
It's repairs per the Vertex report.
Okay, and Christy, I'll get you in a sec.
No problem.
Okay, Christy K? You're muted, Christy.
Yeah. No, I just, it was rated low, but I thought it was one of those ones that is kind of heritage, sort of it's a visual out in Sconset. It's always been there. And I think that's short money to keep caring for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Rick, was there a life safety component to this? I'm not suggesting anything about the bridge falling down or anything, but I just want to be clear.
Is there a life? Well, I mean, it's got a cracked beam and several column bases were rotting and that sort of thing. And you'll recall on that Daffy weekend, somebody sat up there to make sure nobody crossed it. But I know we've done some remedial work to that. I'm just reading the Vertex report now. I don't see a mention of sort of life safety but
Okay.
I don't know beyond that.
No, that's fine. I just was wondering with respect to priority on the SIP request form, some of them are indicated as either imminent threat or, again, we talked about legal requirement. So the department has indicated that this is a medium priority. It does help to, there are necessary functions impaired, and it is relatively short money. That's information. My position is that it is relatively short money, and $1 spent today is probably $2 saved in 2 years. So I would suggest we would move forward on this. Could Rick?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the capital request. It does not flag imminent threat to public safety or property.
Okay, so could I have a motion to either put in the hopper or move to an out year?
I'll move to put it in the hopper.
Okay, Richard, on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy F,
Aye.
Christy K,
Aye.
Jason,
No.
Peter Kaiser,
Aye.
and myself is an aye. So that will carry to the hopper. Let's see, sidewalk improvement plan carries to hopper. Surfside area road reconstruction. We had brief discussion on this. In light of that, do we want to have more discussion on this? Peter McEachern, have you said your thoughts sufficient?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure where everybody's getting a chance. So Jason Bridges.
Yeah, I just want to make clear this is one of the last, outside of Tom Nevers, maybe Walnut Road. This is the last major bike path that's going to be included in the road improvement of really connecting pieces. I mean, Monahasset as well, going to the airport, is going to be a big bike path connector as well. But this is going to be huge, not only for a traffic outlet, but also to have a bike path on the state forest side. Most of the homeowners have been connected with and talked to, and not every single one of them loves it, but a lot of them came around the last couple of years. Rob McNeil did a lot of outreach and speaking with him on which so did Mike Burns. So I would love to keep it in, but this would be an override, and if it passes the ballot or not, we'll see.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Let's see. So I appreciate just my thoughts on this particular one is that I appreciate the fact that the connectivity component, which I think is going to be, it was spec'd as an 8-foot wide bicycle path, so a multi-use path, nice grass buffer, and the fact that this will go to the ballot as an override and the voters have a chance to approve it or not, I think is I would like to see it in the hopper myself. So could I have a motion either for the hopper or out year?
Move to the hopper.
Richard, you're on a roll. What's your vote?
Aye.
Okay, great. Peter McEachern?
No.
Okay. Christy F?
Aye.
Christy K?
I'll give him an aye.
Okay. Jason?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
I will give it an aye, but the caveat that I do agree going to the ballot and giving the town people the right to vote up or down gives me a little bit more confidence in sending it to the hopper.
Okay. And I'm an aye based on the same comments, noting further that, boy, I really would like to see more go into maintenance than just new roads. Okay, so that's hopper. Waite Drive is a hopper because that well, I'm presuming it's a hopper. Why don't we make it official with a either a motion for current year subject to funding as indicated in the comment section, which is a 1.5 million grant and balance from prior appropriations, Why don't we just do that as a current year or to put it to an out year? What would be the motion?
I'll move to current year.
Okay. On your motion?
Aye.
On the vote, Peter McEachern?
No,
Okay. Christy F?
Aye.
Christy K?
No,
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Okay, so that will be a current year subject to recommendation. All right. Let's see here. It's 11 o'clock, and I'm going to try and pick it up a little bit. Sorry, guys. Fire department. Same routine. I'm going to presume for now that since we did not call these, that last chance is that the ALS, Engine 4, and replace the CBAs are in the hopper. Can I get a motion
So moved.
on your
Second.
motion? Thank you, Peter McEachern. Christy K?
oh, sorry, aye.
Jason? Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
And Christy F. Okay, momentarily tied up. On the trench and technical, those are in the hopper. Trench and technical rescue equipment. Christy K, you wanted to speak on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I mentioned this a little bit last week, but you know, Steve's brought this to us the last few years, I think. And I'm just wondering at what point, you know, is he going to either stop bringing it forward or we're going to approve it? It's kind of like the fence around the sewer facility, or the wastewater facility. So I just want to just make aware that some action should be done at some point. I don't know if there'd ever be a liability issue that this was brought forward and denied by the town. But it is valuable equipment. I was talking to one of the firemen and I discussed it with him and
Gotcha, Rick.
you know, so anyway, I just think we should look to consider it. If not this year, next year. I just don't want to keep seeing it come forward and us continue to deny it.
Okay. Thank you, Christy. Rick, and
Just a
then I'll
quick-
take Richard Hussey.
Yeah, just a quick one. I don't think the comment is completely accurate. The town manager did not move this forward. She did not assign it to the out years, to my knowledge. And I think the conversation revolved around how often would we use this? Would we have used it over the summer for the beach where the person was trapped on the beach and just didn't get a sense that there was a ton of opportunities for us to even use this equipment.
So
That's just the color. So.
no, that's helpful information, Rick. I want to just be clear again, not for or against, but so what you're saying is the town manager has eliminated this as a request. It's been retracted as a request, period. Not the recommendation of town manager is not to move it to an out year.
She did not discuss moving it to an out year.
And did she discuss retract overall or just retract for the current year?
No, all I can tell you, Stephen, is that she removed it from this year's recommendation. She did not put it in an out. She did not recommend that it goes in an out year. She just removed it from this year's recommendation. I sadly, you know, we didn't ask about the out year, I guess.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to be accurate, and I think it's important,
That's why I'm
important for everyone to know if we know one way or the other. Okay, how do we want to handle this request? Richard Hussey?
I just want to point out that in Chief Murphy's request, he deemed it an imminent threat in a high required category, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think this will not get a lot of use. I think it would be a helpful tool to have for the town. It's relatively short money. I would like to get a little bit more information on the personnel side of things. We don't have that capacity built into the software yet. but I presumed that if this advanced, that the finance committee would be picking up any personnel cost related matters, and certainly have complete trust in their abilities. So I was fine with moving it forward personally. Where are we? Recommendation to Hopper or out year?
Make a motion to put it in the out year.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. So Jason, on your motion,
Aye.
we have Richard. Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kay.
I'll say no.
Okay. Pete Kaiser,
I'll say aye.
Christy F.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that will move to an out year. Actually, I'm a no, but it will still move to an out year. With respect to our recommendation, not with respect to the town managers. And I'll get some clarification on that for the report. Network infrastructure is Hopper. Replace town computers is a Hopper. Did someone have a particular, I'm going to hold the vote on those for a moment to see if we can expedite. Did someone have a comment on wireless network design other than Hopper?
Jason.
Jason, you're fine with wireless network design going in the Hopper?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'd entertain a motion then for these three: network infrastructure, replace town computers, and wireless network design to go in the Hopper. I'm going to do this in two parts. If we can't get it in one, we'll go from there.
So moved.
Richard, on your motion?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And myself. I want you guys to know I'm going to be like reciting your names in my sleep. It's like a little song that's going on here. It's kind of killing me. Marine Department, second pump out boat. Is there, we did make a recommendation on this, I believe, last year for approval at the ask of 150,000. And is there any thoughts? No. Okay. So I'm going to try this again with the second pump out boat and the F Street bulkhead repair in the Hopper. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Richard?
Aye.
Let's see. Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
And Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And myself. Peter Kaiser, I recognized you on that. I was at the top of the screen. I saw Richard too. Public Works phased, CCT phased work, Children's Beach stormwater.
Did we just skip police department? Sorry, Chair.
Did we? Yeah, we did. No, thank you. I double H'd.
Yep.
Loran housing discussion was, Jason, was that discussion to move to the Hopper, or was that discussion of a concern?
I just wanted to make, I thought it was 67.01 average. So I was just wondering why that was in red or maroon.
Oh, this is actually in italics. This should not be, the reason it's in italics was a note to myself that it should not be in maroon because I had incorrectly been carrying the
decimal,
a variable. So this is a hopperable. It meets the minimum, or it matches the or exceeds. On the police department, Loran housing and public safety radio replacements. Motion for Hopper.
So moved.
On your motion?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Pete Kaiser?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And an I. Okay. I just want to point out for the folks at home, I know we have a really expansive audience, that these are votes on work that's been conducted over the last several months of review. So it's not as if we're simply looking at a list and irrespective of all the information that would be required to make an informed decision. Let's see. So Public Works, I'm going to hopper the ones that were not called, which were 2. We have a host of requests that did not meet the average. And one of them was the Nobodier Fieldhouse supplementary funding was actually more than a unit of standard deviation away from the rest. Let me just think about how we might want to, I think maybe we'll just try and go through these individually quickly. No one had called for discussion on these, so I'm just going to try and entertain a motion if someone would like to step up. Either way, this would either be a hopper or an out year for the 6-wheel dump truck.
Motion for hopper.
Okay. On the motion, Jason?
Aye.
Richard Hussey?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kay?
Aye.
Pete Kaiser?
Aye.
And Christy F.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Let's see. The Ford F-350, similarly situated, motion.
I motion to an out year.
Motion could be to an
Personally?
out year. Yeah. Was that your motion, Peter? Yes. Okay. On your motion?
Aye.
All right. Richard Hussey?
This,
This is the 21-004.
right, I'm a no on that.
Okay. No to an out year.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understand. Peter McEachern?
I'd make a recommendation to procure it at a lower price and just put it through your operational budget. But
Okay.
that's not-
Comment noted. So you're a no on the hopper.
Correct.
Okay. And that's worthwhile.
No, an out year. This is the motion's on an out year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
On an
do
out,
that.
you're a no on the out year, and you're a no on the hopper.
Exactly.
I gotcha. Christy Kickham.
No.
Let's see. Jason
No.
and Christy Ferrantella.
No.
So that's 3 no's.
4.
4.
Sounded like a lot.
Yeah.
Wasn't the hopper.
No, it won't default to the hopper. So that was for an out year motion. So it's not going to go to the out year. I'm a yes on the out year, but it's a 3 to 4. So now it's it would seem a formality to vote it to the hopper. So could I have a motion?
Moved.
Jason on your motion.
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
No.
Okay. Christy Kickham.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
No.
And Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Okay. And I'm an aye. The sweeper.
Motion to put in hopper.
Okay. Jason on your motion.
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
No.
Christy Kay.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. 2 Ford Rangers.
Motion to put in out year.
Okay. On the motion, Jason.
Aye.
Richard Hussey.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
No.
Christy Kickham.
This is on an out year, correct?
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
So that will carry. I'm actually a no. I would prefer to see these for the current year, given staffing and whatnot, but that's fine too. The Nobodier Field Housing Supplementary Funding.
Did that pass to an out year or did that pass to a hopper?
Pass
Keeping
an out
me-
year.
You're keeping me honest. Thank you. Nobodier Field House Supplementary Funding. Is there any, Peter McEachern?
I just go back to the Rangers. Isn't the limit 50K on each individual item?
Actually, the threshold.
Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah.
So
You're
we're
saying the
putting-
minimum.
So we're putting two at 45, which both are below the threshold. And if you price it out correctly, you could procure these for probably under 40 each. So once again, I think, this is our money. I think it's wrong to batch them. I think it's wrong to accept a price of 45K for something that, heck, I can get an F-150 for less than 45K.
Mhm.
So, I think our due diligence is to look at those things and to subsequent pass it is wrong. That's just my comment.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Is there other comments on that?
I
Chrissy
support your
K?
statement.
I concur. I think Peter raises a good point.
Same.
Okay. I do want to differentiate, guys. I think it's important that if we, because we're kind of venturing into, we're not setting a policy, but we're venturing into general discussion policy, where there are projects in the past and that, again, I'm not speaking for or against on this particular request. I just want to be clear in conveying information where we have grouped requests in categories such as, unlike this, where it was specifically vehicles, the specific category to contrast was, I'll use facilities maintenance as a example. So I just think that I understand the comment. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think that this is an area where utility vehicles, we can be frugal and it behooves us to do so. But on the policy matter, I just wanted to be clear going forward that if we're gonna not group things, we should have a policy discussion and make it a formal determination. That's all. Nobody or Fieldhouse, the supplementary funding. Richard Hussey?
I just want to point out that this was in the application rated as a low elective.
Okay. And Rick, would you mind just elaborating a little bit? I'm sorry, I'm juggling a few different screens here, and I pulled this up in the capital request. This was for the field house itself, correct? Not the.
This is for the new structure.
And there is work that has been, I know that it's been through HDC and was approved. And does this affect actual construction?
Does it provide for actual construction? Is that what you're saying? So there's like 600,000 left from a prior appropriation, and this million obviously creates 1.6, which is the bid for the design and construction of the building.
Right. Okay. So this was for supplemental funding in order to initiate construction based upon the approved drawings.
Correct.
Okay. Christy K?
I was just checking to see if there's any constraints on that 600,000.
The existing appropriation?
Yeah.
Or approval?
Yeah.
I think I'll let Rick speak on that, but it has to be used for what it was appropriated for.
Yeah, I mean, so as this supplement, how should I put this? I mean, I think, and I haven't been around that long, but I understand this one has been a little bit of a lightning rod at a town meeting and attracting a lot of attention for the fact that it was the original 750 or so was approved several years ago, and yet nothing's happened. Rob went out and got another design, a full and final design, and as far as I know, the original the remaining 650 or so is for use for this only. Have to be reappropriated to something else. So I don't think there's a gift restriction on it. That's what you're asking.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. So I'll chime in with my thoughts. I'll play the COVID card. This originally was, I believe, conceived for, obviously it's, the field house, but it has been designed and upgraded to be a multi-use space for a variety of purposes. It's one of the few indoor / outdoor type facilities that we would have as a community, in that there are several large barn doors that make it more along the lines of an open space. And I think that given the need for the community to be able to be outside when we can't be in restaurants or in other areas in close proximity, this is a kind of a hybrid cross point between being able to be outdoors and doing healthy outlets and having to stay indoors at home. I'm not suggesting that that is a reason to necessarily the only reason perhaps to move it forward, but I do think it's something I would ask you to consider. And with that, unless there's further discussion, I would take a motion for either hopper or out year. All right, folks, I actually can't make a motion, so.
I'll help you out. I'll move it to an out year.
Okay, on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason. Okay, and I'm a no, blowing in the wind. So that Christy Kickham on the motion. Do you have discussion?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my Rory here. I'd like to say no on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it will pass as an out year.
Okay.
Okay. Bobcat replacement. This is was selected just based upon its value, and it is actually above the value. Again, this is there. I think there are 3 of these. That would go in the hopper. We're not going to vote it yet. The campus-wide improvement plan, subject to the town manager's recommendation. The NPS building improvements, which is a clustering. This is a good example of where we've kind of grouped requests to get up and over the threshold. And then the reconfiguration of the pool parking lot, that was X'd because it was below the average. I'm going to try this and see where we get. Is there a motion to move Bobcat replacement campus-wide improvement plan, NPS building improvements, reconfiguration of the pool parking lot, entrance and exit to the hopper?
Moved.
Okay, Richard, on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Clarification, that's with the reduction to 1 million for campus-wide improvement plan?
Yeah, and I'm actually going against what I said. So, sorry. I have to give my focus to just this meeting. I had a kind of emergency going on the side here. Just a friendly amendment, if we could, to make the campus-wide improvement would be current year, subject to town manager's recommendation of reducing it to 1 million. Is that okay, Richard?
So moved.
Okay, great. So I'll just do the revote. Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason. Okay, he's tied up, and myself as an aye. Okay, so we're down to town admin. Let's see, it's 11:20. Is there? All right, I'm gonna do the same thing for the moment. See where we get. Bear with me. So this would be a good way. Current year. If the motion were to approve these, this would be an out year. This would be in the hopper, and townwide security measures was townwide security measures was advanced last year as a recommendation. So I'm going to put it in the hopper and see where this goes. Is there any concern with the classifications I put in here before we go to a motion? Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to do 3 motions on the town admins. Harbor's plan implementation would be current year subject to a reduction to 100,000. Is there a motion?
So
Motion.
moved.
Richard,
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
and Jason,
Aye.
and myself. Okay. Again, if there's any concern about what these are before we go to motion, I'm just forecasting them for expediency. I'm not forecasting whether we should do it or not. I'm just kind of going with my sense of where we'll be headed. Island-wide underground wiring feasibility study. Town manager's recommendation is an out year. Entertain a motion for out year.
So moved.
Motion.
Okay. Richard, you're on a roll. Christy, do you have a comment on the motion, or do you want to?
I just have a comment on the line item.
Okay.
I just, if we move to an out year next year, I'd just like to know where this is coming from. Again, this is an item that we see every year. Is this in the strategic plan? What is the ultimate goal? And I'd just like to know more about it instead of kicking it down the road every year.
Okay. So before we go on to discussion, I'd like to just ask Richard, can we hold your motion?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see, Rick, can you elaborate on that at all?
On why it's been kicked forward, I think the town manager would call this an incredibly complex undertaking with lots of dependencies on utilities and people like Verizon and the like, and that we're just not ready to understand the full scope or execute on this in the current year.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Jason?
Yeah, sorry.
I would just add on to that. I mean, this has all started from the L8 project. When that came in, a lot of people in the public, the community wanted to like everything should go underground. And so we said, over 6 months, okay, well, we have to do a study. This could be one of the most complex projects this island's ever seen in the history of 300 years. That's how complicated it would be. So we need to do some type of study. We know kind of what we're going to find, and we know it's going to be a $60 to $100 million project. So I think it's easy to push it forward. I think probably my guess would be town admin, maybe some of the select board members, I don't know all, would just eliminate this. Just to give you a little more information.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, for that. And then Rick, just on that, is that for clarity with respect to town manager's recommendation, was this I had put in here again as assigned to out years as default. Is this a retract? Was there further elaboration, or is this simply a retract from FY22 requests?
Well, no, I mean, so we weren't determinative on this one any more than we were on the other one. The sense I get, though, is that she's dubious about the usefulness of the trench and technical rescue, but she understands the importance of ultimately doing the underground wiring feasibility study. So I would say she's moved it out to consideration at another time. So moved it out to the out years. I haven't moved it to 2024 or 2025 or anything like that, but I would say that's the sense of it.
Okay, I think that's good, relevant information. Thank you. Let's see. Any further discussion on that topic? Okay, we're going to take. I think that I don't see the needle has moved, so I am going to take up Richard's motion. We have Richard's motion for an out year, and Richard, are you still good on your vote for a yes? Okay. Yeah. Peter McEachern?
Yes.
Christy Kay?
Yes.
Peter Kaiser?
Yes.
Christy Ferrantella?
Yes.
Jason Bridges?
Yes.
And myself. Okay. On the other two remaining items, I would entertain a motion for either a hold or an out year. These were recommended last year. Jason, you have a question?
Just one comment. I found that the security measures, the way our Rory was, I couldn't, if I really stayed true to each line item, I couldn't, I feel it's very important, but with the way the Rory was structured in this particular expenditure, I couldn't make it important with the way, there's no legacy, it's not a repair, it's not a replacement. I couldn't get it up past the 50s unless I just kind of played the game and just knocked everything upwards. So this is the one thing in all the years I felt really fell out of, I couldn't really describe it in the Rory. If that makes sense?
No, it does make sense. Actually, just my score actually skewed the whole thing down quite a bit because mine was lower for other reasons. But I do understand the point, and there was a range of between. I'm now looking at the group ranking between 77.4 and 21.2. So this might be a good one at a future meeting to look at as apropos, Jason, your earlier comment on why some people rank things differently. But it is, it's certainly within, it is more, it's slightly more than 1 unit of the standard deviation. However, as I said, it was recommended by us last year. So Christy K?
Just like to ask Jason or Christie if this is discussed at the select board level.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I just know it because I worked in the town min office years ago. It was discussed then, back when active shooters and that stuff was more in our conversations. That the town building and some other places didn't have the security measures of that we should.
Okay. Thank you. Richard, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, this was on the application listed as high, required, imminent threat.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah. The other thing I just point out is that this is not actually for, my recollection is this is not actually for installation of particular hardware. It's a townwide study, primarily a townwide study to make a determination of what's required where and how best to go about it. Maybe I'm misremembering this, but I think it's supposed to be a security assessment. And along those lines, I think that it would be beneficial cost-wise to get out of the way before inflationary kicks in, and also generally a good idea. Christy Kickham?
I was also going to say that it does also say in the application that it's a phased funding. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Is there, I'm just going to see where we go with this. Is there I'd entertain a motion for the townwide document management system and the townwide security measures, either hopper or out year?
Move to hopper.
Okay. Jason, on your motion?
Aye.
Richard Hussey?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
To clarify, it was motion to the hopper?
Yeah.
Aye.
Let's see, Christy F?
Aye.
And an aye. Okay, so don't forget, we've still got the public works to or facilities to address. Airport. Again, I'm going to go with my sense and what was approved last year, and see if we can get a motion one way or the other. Entertain a motion for the hopper or the out years for the AIP projects, airport maintenance and equipment, groundwater and soil investigation, and the Nantucket operations and ARFF.
So moved.
All four.
Okay. Peter McEachern.
Aye.
Switch it up. Richard Hussey.
Aye.
Christy Kickham.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
And myself. Okay, great. Richard, you had a near perfect run there. Sewer. We've got the hopper for, again, I'm going to go. Was there, well, let's see. Will you all refresh my memory? The garage maintenance facility, was there anyone who flagged this? Okay. Anyone flag the F650? I don't believe so. Replace South Shore sewer. Okay. I think I'd like to get these two out of the way and then we'll go from there. Can I get a motion for hopper out years for the capacity man, the CMOM and the South Shore Road sewer?
So moved.
Richard, quick on the draw on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Christy Kickham.
I'm sorry, what's the motion?
The motion is for the hopper for capacity, the CMOM, and for the South Shore Road sewer.
Aye.
Sorry, if I'm talking quickly, it's in deference to how important all your time is.
No worries.
Okay, Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
Okay, and myself. I segregated those out just in case these others were, let's see. Design a new garage. I'm trying to recollect if all of these, I believe all of these except for the watertight manholes and the jetter truck were in the recommendation last year. Let's just do this. Is there I'm just going to do these separately. It'll be quicker. Recommendation for hopper out year for the garage maintenance facility and administration building.
Move to hopper.
Okay. And I'm going to hold, yeah, okay. So given there isn't a strong feeling otherwise, Peter, I'm just going to ask you to hold that motion. The dump truck, do I have a motion, hopper or out year?
Hopper.
Jason, I'm going to ask you to hold your motion. The jetter?
Hopper.
And the watertight sewer manholes?
Out years for me.
Okay, that'd be your motion. Okay. So let's see. We're going to do the... Okay, we held those motions. We're going to... I'll take a motion to put the design of the new garage maintenance facility admin building, the F-650 dump truck, and the jetter vacuum truck in the hopper. This is to replace the prior motions.
So
All
moved.
motion.
Okay, Peter McEachern, on yours.
Aye.
Richard Hussey.
No.
Okay, Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, so those are in the hopper, and then entertain a motion for the out years based on the prior motion. Who made that? I'm sorry. Peter, was that you, Peter Kaiser? Watertight.
I believe it was Peter. Oh, that was
Christy. Christy, would you like to put that motion back in place?
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't rate it high, so my personal opinion is not necessary, so I'd say move to the out year.
Okay. On your motion,
Aye.
Richard Hussey,
No.
Peter McEachern,
No.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
No.
Oh,
Motion fails.
yeah. We got one more vote, and I'm going to be an aye. Or I'm sorry, I'm a no. So clarification, that's not in the hopper. That is a no for the out year. Da, 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 the drama builds. So can I get a motion for the hopper?
Motion.
Peter Kaiser on your motion.
Aye.
Richard Hussey,
Aye.
Peter McEachern,
No.
Christy Kickham,
No.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
No.
and I'm an aye, so that carries. Okay, thank you everyone for that. We've got water main replacement that is above average was not ticked for the further discussion. Entertain a motion for Hopper or out year for the water main replacement work.
Move to Hopper.
Richard Hussey on your motion.
Aye.
Peter McEachern.
I'm sorry, Richard, you said for putting it into the hopper or out?
Yes, Hopper.
Hopper, yes, aye.
Christy K.
Aye.
Christy F.
Aye.
Jason. And thank you. Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that's okay. So now we have, we can close that. We have the DPW facilities, and a component of this is a broader discussion on funding sources, because this involves, a component of this involves an expansion, which is future projects, which we're going to get some elaboration on, and then they all fall under recommendation to be funded by a financial borrowing mechanism, which we need to get into further discussion on. I think that that's really going to set the stage for our December 31st meeting, other than voting these for the hopper, but we'll see what kind of time we have. So the hopper or out years. So we're going to, I don't mean to be confusing, trying to organize thoughts here. We have, let's get these out of the way. This is actually, okay. Facility site paving annual updates was advanced last year. I'm going to just try this. These were all advanced last year, subject to a reduction in funding based upon capacity, lack of information, and capacity of the department. This is just informational purposes for you guys. Town manager has not made a recommendation other than these be, if Rick, correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, but the town manager's recommendation via recommending a funding source that's called the financial borrowing mechanism is to advance these as they've been submitted. Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct. And
okay.
And I you know, Brian's in a class, so he dropped off, but he's happy to rejoin. Do you want to discuss the mechanism in more detail? It is his proposal, so I can get him back on.
I think I'm going to hold on that for this. Okay. I think just in advancing and completing the recommendation, we're looking at the merits this morning, at least initially. So let's see. I'd like to see if this floats. I'll entertain a motion as the group for the hopper.
So moved.
Richard, on your motion.
Aye.
Okay. Peter McEachern.
Aye.
Christy Kickham.
Aye. Sorry.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Peter Kaiser.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Subject to resolution of appropriate funding mechanism. Rick, that will set the stage for the next, which is kind of a new entry, which we have not roried, and it's referred to as future projects. So I've made a notation. The dollar amount is just over 2.1 million. That we'd like to get some elaboration on the request and have some discussion on it. And then determine setting up an actual RORI consistent with our practices. What can you tell us about this entry?
Yeah, so this is why I was asking you if you wanted to get Brian back on. This is Brian's proposal, but what I can explain it to you as the following. And it's not entirely different than what I said last time. In fact, it's the same as what I said last time. So in an effort to bring together in a tighter time frame the approval of the project, the funding of the project, and the execution of the project, Brian is suggesting that we authorize a borrowing, essentially, authorize a borrowing such that we would, to allow the town manager, the DPW director, the finance director to choose a small handful of projects that could be executed within a year. And when we're ready to go, we raise the money and we go. Why is it that we need this? And the answer is, it seems that we have particular problem with the facilities projects, getting the funding for some of these projects correct, because it's well in advance of the time that we would do the work. The work is uncertain. Certainly maintenance is uncertain, right? You open up a wall, you find something that needs to be abated. So it's very difficult. And so to get the costing right. And then of course you have, the unpredictability of labor and materials costs. So the goal is to have a list of projects like this, but only execute a small handful of them. And when one project is complete, if there's remaining funding in the $6.5 million borrowing, we would add another project. So it's about making sure projects don't languish due to lack of funding. This was Brian's, and it has the support of the town manager. This is Brian's recommendation. Let's borrow a sum of money that allows us to act and operate quickly on some of these projects, so that we don't get stuck, 75 grand short on a couple of roofing projects, and so we don't end up doing them at all. Does that make sense to people? Or I think one of the select board members thought of this as a way to borrow against routine maintenance, and it's really not. There's an allocation. The debt service on this $6.5 million would be about $750,000 a year at current borrowing costs, and so we would be setting aside that $750,000 from the free cash on an annual basis to service the debt. So it's really more of an ability to raise the money quickly, as opposed to trying to debt fund maintenance.
Yeah, no, sorry, that wasn't a dramatic pause. I was on mute. I'd forgotten. No, it's helpful. I have some questions on it, but I'd like to see if they're for clarification purposes. But I'd like to just see if there's any direct questions at this point. Okay. So, Rick, for me, I see two things. One, again, clarification. So, correct, confirm as we go. Basically, we're looking at the department head's ask and the future projects totaling this roughly the 6.5 million. That is the ask for the borrowing for this particular year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that Brian probably backed into this slightly differently. He was willing to set aside X amount of free cash each year. He backed into what that would allow us to borrow. So if you're gonna, if you want to have debt service of $750,000 a year, Brian, you can borrow $6.5 to $7 million. And it's less about the total of the projects than it is about the annual allocation of free cash.
Okay, so where I'm a little, and this is where I need to get some clarity. Where I'm a little confused is that the recommended funding sources were to utilize for the DPW facility projects, which totaled, I think, 4.3. This new facility borrowing mechanism, which we'll get into some discussion on that in a moment. That was also to fund a line item called future projects for 2.14. So to me, based on the presentation to the select board of an ask, the currently estimated borrowing would be between 6.5 and 6.9. This represents the 6.5 or the better part of it for certain. So I'm just trying to understand. Well, I'm trying to understand a few things. One, is this a one-time vehicle? Because if it's only 6.5, then it would only fund this year's request, inclusive the 2.1 future projects.
Yeah. So just to be clear, the future projects, and they're both sort of a holding, or, first of all, the value is a plug number to get it to get the total to 6.5, and future projects is a designation that is there because we don't have other projects discretely determined at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. So,
and the mechanism will need to be topped up. We're not going to do, so if, I think, and Brian is going to rejoin, if this works successfully, such that we approve projects, fund projects, and execute projects efficiently, both from an execution perspective and financially managed better, we don't have overruns that preclude us from finishing projects, then Brian will come back and ask for another borrowing.
Right.
That service each year out of free cash.
Okay. No, thank you. That's good. So basically we're leveraging this is basically essentially it's institutionalizing a shift of free cash funding these in and of itself, and instead using free cash to leverage funding of these projects. Is that correct?
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. And then I think it's also, again, this is clarification. This isn't a quality assessment. It's clarification assessment. Given the fact that these, the projects that, part of the reason that I say it's institutionalizing of a shift to leverage free cash versus using free cash in a deleverage position is because all of the projects that are being referenced currently were free cash last year and I believe the year before. So that was the basis for that comment. The other comment I guess I would say is that, let me see here. I'm looking at the 2.149 would be a requirement to make a recommendation on for the purposes of our process making a recommendation on capital appropriations. It's not a particular project or a particular projects, but it will be, is that correct?
Yeah, well, Brian's here now, but yes, they are projects to be determined.
Okay. And then we're required to make a recommendation as part of our process in the town's financial policies and procedures on that, any amount that's capital. So we would not be necessarily recommending a particular future project we would be, if we recommend in the positive, we're recommending the concept of using free cash as a leverage for a borrowing to fund the cost of these projects. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, but Brian, you're here, so.
No, that's okay. I mean, Brian, I'm just looking to make sure I understand.
No, you do understand it. I mean, the recommendation at this point would be to recommend the concept that we're doing, which I'm sure that Rick has taken you through since him and I have talked about it, with the understanding that all of any projects in any given year have to go through other discussions and sign off before we would even begin to undertake them, so that everybody would be clear about what those projects are going to be completed or expected to be completed in a particular fiscal year. And the whole theory is that once they're done, we can then move on to additional projects in a more consistent and measured and focused manner.
Okay. No, that makes sense to me. Thank you. Yeah. And it answers a question I had in advance, which is what's the review process? So our review process for a particular project will not change, even if it is funded through the facilities borrowing mechanism. It's just that this will be where I understand we're calling it the facilities borrowing mechanism. That's not actually a municipality christened under law. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. Christy, I'll get to you in a second too, but we're basically going to be reviewing requests as we normally do, and one of the funding sources that will be available to us will be, as opposed to, for instance, as example, free cash would be the FBM, the facilities borrowing mechanism. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, just for understanding, because I get calls on this, what the heck is a facilities borrowing mechanism and why are we doing this and so on and so forth. Christy, on your question, and then I have a couple more, but
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Brian if there's any condition on which this money could be used without review.
No.
Okay.
The way that I have thought this through is that I'm sure Rick has probably given you some of the backstory, but the way that I've thought this through is that there's a tremendous amount of facilities requests, and the fact is that the select board has made maintenance of and upkeep of the infrastructure something that is important. And so I came up with a theory after talking to Hilltop that we could do something like this, which would enable facilities to focus on a clearly defined set of projects that we believe we could accomplish in a defined period of time. For purposes of the discussion, 1 year. Obviously, some of these, depending on the extent of them, could take slightly longer than that. But if we had the ability to move through those and continue forward, it made more sense to me to do this than trying to come back, do this every year with, say, $1 million, which is the last 2 years what we've been putting forward. And what we're finding is by the time we get to some of those projects, they're far more than the money we had allocated over a couple year process. So, but to answer your other half of that question, Christy, is that the policy that is being developed and will be implemented prior to us even beginning to utilize any of this funding, should it be approved at town meeting, is that it would have to go to start with the assistant finance director, myself, discussion with the town manager. Capcom would be given the list of projects and would have a discussion on what we expect to be able to finish in that year, and also a review with the select board. It's not just, I want everybody to understand, it's not that a facility suddenly has $6.5 million and they can go run and do whatever they think that needs to be done. This is being done as a way to grant them and give them the flexibility to accomplish projects, but it's coming with a very defined set of parameters on how we do it.
okay, Christy again.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. I agree with all that. Just so I understand it, would you guys have flexibility if the approved amount was to change due to overruns or
all we would have would be the borrowing authorization. In this case, we're anticipating, we're still refining it in the run up to town meeting, but we've done the analysis of $750,000 in free cash, and depending on the interest rate and the timing, would generate anywhere between 6.5 to 6.9 million. That would be using 6.5 million for purposes of this discussion and purposes of your vote. That would be the limit on what could be utilized.
Got it.
So they wouldn't have the flexibility to go past that number.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So I've got just a few more and we can move on this. So Brian, basically we're going to be, I think philosophically with respect to budgeting and the financial impacts, we're shifting from a pay from free cash and be done with it to a carrying charge, because we are gaining some benefits, leveraging the free cash while creating liquidity for with respect to the project cost management. We're not tied, right? Is that okay? However, none of that is with any type of reduction in the review process through town proper. So administration or the select board or the civically engaged appointees, the finance committee and the Capcom.
Correct.
Okay, so that's all good. I think my last very brief set of questions relate to, well, it's been labeled a facilities borrowing mechanism, and I'm going to start saying FBM because it's just too much. What is the actual borrowing? Is this going to be a general obligation bond? Is it going to be a GO bond within 2.5, outside 2.5, or is it going to be some type of a hybridization? I don't know if legally that's the case. A capital stabilization fund.
We would get the authority to borrow $6.5 million. Okay. We would never ever run out and borrow $6.5 million immediately under this, or issue a general obligation bond for this. We would issue bands for each of the projects, and depending on timing, may issue the general obligation bond, you know, at the time of that project's completed. We're not going to wait to have utilized all 6.5 million. It will be within Proposition 2.5, but the funding source is free cash. So it will not impact the tax rate or any of the operational aspects of the town. It's also very possible, depending on the scenario, if we take a ban out that's less than 750 in that year, we may just pay it down when it comes due, but it will give us the flexibility to access the market and have the liquidity to get these projects done. Depending on timing, it's possible also, depending on timing and how much we borrow at any one time, that we don't ever end up permanently borrowing much, if anything, to dedicate to free cash, because we can roll bans for a period of up to 10 years, which would be the maximum that we would ever look to borrow on a permanent basis anyway. So it really is, there's a lot of tools on how we manage this. It's really giving us the ability to have the funding up front to get the vast array of projects done.
Okay, and then the last question is, are you seeing this initially, because obviously it needs to get voted at town meeting, as a borrowing, as a go bound, or as a debt exclusion? So outside 2.5 or inside 2.5?
Inside 2.5, because it has a dedicated funding source. There's a commitment by the town manager and I that we would allocate $750,000 of free cash annually. So it would not need a debt exclusion.
Okay. And then, so I think that the other takeaway for us all to consider, again, quantitatively, informational wise, is that we're shifting $750,000. We're committing $750,000 of free cash. I'm not saying this is an issue, but for a 10-year period, during the duration of the 6.5 million, having been, if it were 6.5 million to 6.9. Peter McEachern.
I just want to commend Brian for his ability to use the philosophical, private and public financial wherewithal to come up with plans like this, which make our town much better than it ever was before he got here, period.
Yeah, that's Christy Kickham is in agreement, as am I. And I appreciate you answering these questions. I think it's a new animal for people, and the more information is out, and I can just refer people to, comments, I think it's important and it will be helpful, so that it's not just this concept that all of a sudden although you're through this funding mechanism, you are creating money. We are not doing it in a way that's irresponsible, and it is beneficial with for a variety of purposes. Okay, so that's the funding source discussion I was hoping we could have. Thank you, Brian and Rick and everyone else. On the future projects, in order to resolve out in our vote today, if possible, is there anyone who has any further questions on the concept of the future projects? And if not, then we would take a vote on whether to recommend them, the concept, in order so that the overall concept of the facilities borrowing mechanism could go forward with our recommendation. So any questions on future projects? Jason?
I think we should vote to move it forward and recommend it. Just now until town meeting, which is in June now, come up with a layman's term way of describing this.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think the idea that,
Smart.
Thank you, Jason. The idea that we're, basically leveraging free cash, I think is the bottom line. Okay, great. So can I get a motion on future projects to put in the hopper?
So moved.
Jason, thank you. On your motion?
Aye.
Richard Hussey?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And myself and I. Excellent. So our last vote on these will be to formalize our recommendation. Let's see here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. We've done out years. We've done current year. So I would entertain a motion, please, to recommend for FY22 funding all of the requests that have been put in the hopper.
So moved.
Richard, on your motion?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Pete Kaiser?
Aye.
And Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, guys. I know that that's kind of like pulling teeth a little bit. Next up on the agenda is to, whoops, put that there. Green Sheets Committee reports. It is 12 p.m. I would ask that we would announce the date of our next meeting, which is Thursday, December 31st at 10 a.m., which I anticipate will be very brief to review funding sources, unless you all want to stick around today and get through that. And then ask for a motion to approve the minutes of 11, 12, 17, and 19.
So moved.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Jason?
Jason, thank you. On your motion?
Aye.
Richard Hussey?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Peter Kaiser?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. With that, I'd certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. On your motion?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Christy Kickham?
Aye.
Pete Kaiser?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thanks, everyone. Have a great Christmas. Have great holidays. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.